Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever thought about dipping your toes into the beautiful world of French? Well, you've come to the right place. In just the next few minutes, we're going to take that very first step together. Ready? Let's do this.
All right, first things first. Bonjour et bienvenue. This is probably the most classic French greeting there is, and it simply means hello and welcome. So consider this your official warm welcome to your French language journey.
Okay, so when you think French, you're probably picturing Paris, right? The Eiffel Tower, cafes. But what if I told you that's just the tip of the iceberg? The French language is truly a global phenomenon.
So let's really think about that for a second. Where in the world is French actually spoken? I mean, besides France, obviously. Go ahead, take a guess, because I bet the answer is way bigger than you're imagining. Get this, we're talking about 300 million people. That is a massive number. It actually makes French the fifth most spoken language on the entire planet. So, you're not just learning some words here, you're basically getting a key to a huge global community.
And this community is everywhere. Of course, you've got France, but you'll also hear it all over Canada, especially Quebec. Hop over to other parts of Europe, and there's Belgium and Switzerland. And then there's this huge presence across Africa, in places like Senegal, Morocco, Madagascar. The list just goes on and on. Learning French really does open up the world.
And it's not just about travel or culture either. French is a serious player on the world stage. It's an official language for huge organizations like the United Nations and the European Union. So yeah, it carries a lot of weight in diplomacy and international relations.
Okay, so why should you learn French? Well, there are the obvious reasons, right? It's the language of incredible culture, high fashion, art, and, let's be honest, amazing food. It can open up all sorts of doors for travel and your career. But here's the kicker, especially for us English speakers. You are not starting from scratch, not even close.
So check this out. It's pretty wild. Almost a third, 30%, of all English words actually come from French. Seriously, think about words like restaurant, menu, ballet, garage. The list is endless. You've been speaking a little bit of French your whole life, and you probably didn't even know it.
So, the big question is, how do you take that head start and turn it into fluency? Well, the good news is you don't have to just wander around aimlessly. There's actually a clear step-by-step roadmap that learners all over the world use.
It's called the CEFR framework. Basically, it just breaks down language learning into 6 manageable levels. You start out at A1, learning the basics like hello and how are you, and you work your way up, step by step, all the way to C2, which is basically native level fluency. It's a fantastic way to track your progress and see exactly what's next.
All right, now that we have our map, let's go right back to square one, the absolute fundamentals, the alphabet.
And here's some more good news for you. The French alphabet, it uses the exact same 26 letters as English, so you don't have to learn a whole new set of characters. The real trick, the real key, is just getting used to how they sound.
And it's those sounds that give French that beautiful melodic flow. It's what makes it sound so French. So let's break down 3 of the biggest things that create that unique sound.
First up, we've got something called nasal vowels. Now in English, pretty much all the sound comes straight out of your mouth. But in French, for some vowels, the sound comes out of your mouth and your nose at the same time. It creates this really cool, resonant sound you just don't hear in English.
Okay, so think about the un sound in the word France. It's not français, it's more like France. See? Or the an sound in bonjour, and un in the word lundi, which means Monday. You can kind of feel a little buzz in your nose when you say them right. Go on, give it a shot.
Okay, next up is a really cool feature called liaison. This is pretty much the secret ingredient to making French sound so smooth and flowy. It's all about linking words together so they sound like one long, beautiful word instead of a bunch of choppy ones. Here's the perfect example. You wouldn't say les amis, which means the friends. Instead, that S at the end of les links up with the A in ami, and it all becomes les amis. Hear that flow? Les amis. Same thing with vous avez, you have. It becomes vous avez. It's a total game changer for sounding natural.
And last but not least, the thing everyone talks about, silent letters. Yes, French has a lot of letters you just don't pronounce, especially at the end of words. But try not to think of it as confusing. It's more like the language cares more about the beautiful melody than about spelling everything out. The letters are there for history, but the sound is where the music is.
Okay, a super common example is the word petit, which means small. See that T on the end? You just ignore it. It's pronounced petit. That's it. Once you get the hang of which letters go silent, your accent will improve like instantly. And that's it. You did it. Seriously, bravo. You've just finished your very first French lesson. That is a huge and awesome first step on your journey. So let's do a super quick recap of everything we just covered. We found out that French is spoken all over the world. We looked at that handy CEFR roadmap to fluency, and we dove into the 3 key sounds that make French sound so unique. Those nasal vowels, the smooth liaison, and of course, the silent letters.
I want to leave you with a fantastic French proverb that I absolutely love. Petit à petit, on devient grand. It means little by little, one becomes great. And that's exactly what learning a language is all about, taking small steps every day. You took a really important one today. The only question is, what's your next one going to be? Thanks so much for joining me. Merci beaucoup et à bientôt.
Hey, welcome. You know, today we're not just going to learn a few random French phrases. No, we're actually building a toolkit, a hands-on toolkit that's going to get you ready for your very first real conversation in French. So let's jump right in. So the big question is, are you ready? Because seriously, by the time we're done here, you are going to have everything you need to start a conversation. The goal isn't to be fluent by tomorrow. That's not realistic. The goal is to feel confident right now. Okay, here's how we're going to do it. First, we'll grab our 3 essential tools, the openers, the first question, and the introduction. Then, we'll see how they all fit together in a real conversation. And finally, we'll send you off on your own adventure. It's simple, it's structured, and trust me, it works. All right, let's get into it. Tool number 1, the openers. Seriously, think of these like the keys to a car. They get the conversation started, and they help you end it smoothly. They are absolutely essential. Okay, so let's look at these. What I love here is how versatile they are. Bonjour is your go-to, all-purpose, polite hello. You can't go wrong with it. Salut is way more casual, kind of like hey. And get this, you can use it for hello and bye, but only with people you know well, like friends. Then for the evening, you've got bonsoir. And for your classic goodbyes, au revoir is the standard, and à bientôt is a bit more hopeful, like see you soon. So it all comes down to context, right? Use bonjour all the time, walking into a shop, meeting someone new. It's always the safe bet. Salut is for your friends, super casual. And then, once the evening hits, just switch over to bonsoir. See? Super easy. Okay, so you've said hello. Now what? Well, let's grab our second tool. This is probably the most natural follow-up question in any language. How are you? And this is so important in French. It really highlights the difference between formal and informal. Comment allez-vous is what you use when you want to show respect to an older person, a stranger, in a professional setting. But comment ça va? That's what you'd ask a friend. You know, getting this right is such a simple way to show that you get the culture, and people will really appreciate it. And of course, if you ask the question, you got to be ready for the answer. Most of the time, you're probably going to hear ça va bien, merci, I'm good, thanks. But it's super helpful to know comme ci, comme ça for when things are just, well, so-so, and ça ne va pas for when someone's not doing so well. All right, we've opened the door, we've asked how they are. Let's move on to tool number 3, the introduction. This is where you actually start to make a real connection. These are your building blocks right here. Je m'appelle literally means I call myself, which is just a cool way of saying your name, right? Then you can ask them, comment tu t'appelles? And a fantastic way to keep the chat going is tu es d'où? Where are you from? And then you can wrap up this part with enchanté, which means enchanted, but really it's just a lovely way of saying nice to meet you. Okay, here is a pro tip that will instantly make you sound more like a native speaker. In English, we say I am 20 years old, right? Well, in French, you have your age. So you say j'ai 20 ans, which translates to I have 20 years. It's a small change, but trust me, it's a total game changer for sounding authentic. And just look at how all these pieces come together so smoothly. Sophie here uses our tools to build a perfect little introduction. She starts with a greeting, gives her name, her age, using that j'ai structure we just talked about, says where she's from, her profession, and then finishes with a polite enchanté. See, it flows. All right, toolkit is packed. We've collected all our tools. Now for the fun part. Let's see them in action. We're going to watch a real flowing conversation happen between two people, Leia and Arjun. So Leia gets things started. She uses one of our openers, Bonjour, and then boom, right into the informal question to ask his name. You can tell she feels comfortable and wants to keep it casual.
And Arjun's response is perfect. Je m'appelle Arjun. But here's the key move. He immediately keeps the conversation going by asking, Et toi? And you? That's how you volley it back.
Leia answers really casually, Moi c'est Leia. Me, I'm Leia. She throws in that polite enchanté and then grabs another tool from our kit to ask where he's from. Arjun answers, I come from India. And again, he does it again. He masterfully uses et toi to pass the conversational baton right back to her. This back and forth, that's the secret sauce. So Leia says she's from France, and then she expands the conversation a little bit. She asks about his job with a super common casual phrase, what do you do in life? And Arjun's answer is simple and direct. I am an engineer. This is a perfect example of how you don't need these long, complicated sentences to have a really good conversation. And here's how they wrap it up. Leia gives a positive, super, and then they both use one of our closers, a simple a bientôt from both of them. It's warm, it's friendly, and it leaves the door open to talk again. And that's it. In just a few minutes, we've put together a complete toolkit for your very first French conversation. You've got the openers, you've got the questions, you've got the introduction phrases, you've even seen how they all click together. There's really only one thing left to do, and that's to actually use them. And really, that's the most important part. This whole toolkit is designed for you to take action. So I want you to think about it. Who could you talk to? A friend who speaks French? Maybe a language partner you find online? Or the barista at that cute little French cafe down the street? You have the tools. The only question left is, who will you have your first French conversation with? Go for it. À bientôt.
Bonjour. You know that feeling when you hear someone speaking French and you're just captivated by the sound of it? That beautiful kind of musical flow? Well, if you've ever wished you could capture that sound for yourself, you have definitely come to the right place. Today, we are going to crack the code on French pronunciation.
I mean, it really does have this musical thing going on, doesn't it? The words just seem to melt into each other. But let's be real, that's also exactly what makes it so tricky when you're first starting out.
Yep, exactly. You look at a word, you try to sound it out, and it just feels like the letters on the page are totally lying to you. It is a super common feeling, so don't worry. But here's the secret. It's not random at all. There's a system, a set of codes that actually controls everything.
Okay, so let's get into it. I really want you to think of French pronunciation as this secret code, and once you know the patterns, you unlock that authentic French sound. So, you ready to start decoding?
All right, here's our game plan. First, we're decoding the accents. Then, we'll get into the art of French flow. After that, we'll tackle those signature sounds, and we'll wrap it all up with a practice plan just for you.
Okay, first up, the accents. Now in French, these little marks, they are not just for decoration. Think of them as fundamental instructions that tell you exactly how to pronounce a vowel.
Seriously, the best way to think of them is like your own personal pronunciation GPS. They guide your voice to the exact right sound, so you just don't get lost. You follow the GPS, you'll always end up at the right pronunciation. Simple as that.
All right, let's start with this one. The accent aigu. See that little upward slash? That creates a sharp, bright A sound. Just think of the sound in English words like say or play. Okay, your turn to try it. I'll say it, then you repeat after me. Ready? Café, cinéma, étudiant. Hear that bright A sound? Awesome. Now, let's meet its cousin, the accent grave. This one, you'll notice, points the other way, and it creates a more open, kind of relaxed sound, like in the English word get or bed.
Let's give it a shot. Repeat after me. Père, très, mère. Can you actually feel that difference? It's a subtle little shift from that tight A in café to this more open A in mère. See? That's your GPS working perfectly.
Next up, we've got this little hat, the accent circumflex. This one makes a slightly longer sound. But here's a really cool little fact for you. It often shows where an S used to be, way back in Old French. So for example, forêt used to be spelled forest, just like in English. How cool is that? Okay, this one is a total game changer. This CD, that's the little tail on the letter C. It's a signal to pronounce it as a soft S sound. So without it, the word garçon would be pronounced garcon with a hard K sound, but with it, it becomes the correct garçon. It's a tiny little mark that has a huge impact on the sound.
So the other accents you're going to see, they're mostly there to help tell words apart or to separate vowel sounds. For instance, u means or, but u with the accent means where. Or take a word like naive. Those two little dots just tell you to pronounce the ah and the e as two separate sounds.
Okay, so we've pretty much nailed the individual sounds. But the real magic of French, the thing that makes it sound so beautiful, is how all those sounds connect. That's what creates that famous flow. So let's look at the two big secrets to making that happen: liaison and elision.
Okay, first, liaison. This is so key to getting that smooth French sound. Here's how it works. You take a word that ends in a consonant you don't normally pronounce, right? Well, if the next word starts with a vowel, that silent consonant suddenly springs to life to link the two words together. So, les amis isn't pronounced les amis. No, that S jumps over and it becomes one single fluid sound, les amis.
And the other secret ingredient for that French flow is elision. And this is all about avoiding clunky vowel sounds bumping into each other. For example, saying l'homme just feels a little awkward. It doesn't flow. So what does French do? It smooths it out by just dropping that first vowel, which gives us l'homme. It's faster, it's smoother, it just sounds way more natural.
All right, it is time for the final piece of our code. These are the sounds that give French its really unique signature melody. We're talking about silent letters and, of course, those famous nasal vowels.
Now this, right here, is one of the biggest keys to the entire French code. As a general rule of thumb, if a word ends in one of these consonants, T, S, D, P, or X, you just don't say it. The sound just stops before you get to it. I know it feels really strange at first, but trust me, this is absolutely fundamental.
Let's take the word for small, petit. You see it ends with a T, but we don't say petite. Nope, that T is totally silent. The sound stops right at the vowel, petit. It's as simple as that.
But wait a second, here is where it gets really fun. Remember what we just learned about liaison? Well, if petite is followed by a word that starts with a vowel, like ami, that silent T suddenly jumps back to life to link the words. So it becomes petite-ami. I mean, isn't it so cool how all these rules start to work together?
And now we've arrived at the most signature French sound of them all, the nasal vowels. This is where the sound comes out partly through your nose. Let's actually try this together, right now. Say the word bonjour like you normally would. Okay, now try saying it again, but this time gently pinch your nose. Bonjour. Do you feel that vibration? That little bit of blockage? That is the nasal sound. So let's look at the three main ones you'll hear. There's the A sound in France, the O sound in bonjour, and the O sound in, well, the word on. Now look, this one's tricky, so definitely give yourself some time with it.
Bravo. Seriously, you now have the foundational codes to French pronunciation. But, knowing the rules is only half the battle. So now let's talk about how to put it all together into a simple but really effective practice plan.
Okay, let's do a super quick recap of the secret codes we've unlocked today. Remember, the accents are your pronunciation GPS. They guide every sound. Liaison is like the glue that connects your words. Elision is what creates that smooth, natural flow. And of course, mastering those nasal vowels, that's what gives you that truly signature French sound.
You honestly now have the complete toolkit to decode French pronunciation. And the real key here isn't about being perfect. It's all about practice. So read out loud, listen to native speakers, and please don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn. So my challenge to you is this. What's the very first word you are going to practice with these new codes? Go ahead, pick one. Say it out loud right now and start your journey. Merci et à bientôt.
Hey everyone, and welcome! Today we are jumping right into the absolute essentials for navigating daily life in French. We're talking numbers, dates, and time, basically the toolkit you need to do everything from ordering in a cafe to catching a train in Paris. Let's get into it.
Okay, so picture this. You're in Paris, you find this amazing-looking bistro, and you want to book a table. How do you actually say, a table for two at 8 p.m.? Well, these are exactly the kinds of everyday situations that hinge on what we're covering today. These are the keys that unlock real practical French conversation.
All right, let's dive right in with our first big building block, the numbers. Les nombres. They are everywhere.
Prices, times, addresses, you name it. It might look a little intimidating at first, but I promise you there is a logic to it, and we're going to crack that code together.
You know, everything starts with a solid foundation. So let's run through these together. Just try repeating them after me. Ready? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Getting these down really solid is going to make everything else just click into place.
Now, here's our first little quirk. Just like in English where we have 11 and 12 instead of 1, French has its own unique names for the numbers from 11 up to 16. So we've got 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Just think of these as their own little special group that you got to memorize.
And here is the good news. After 16, a really simple and logical pattern kicks in. For instance, 17 is 17, which is literally 10-7. 45 is 45, or 45. See? It's just basic addition. The only tiny little exception is for numbers that end in 1, like 21, which is 21. You just add that little which means and. Simple enough, right?
All right, take a deep breath. Because from 70 to 99, this is where French decides to have a little bit of fun. Now, don't think of this as hard. Just think of it as creative. It's one of the language's most famous quirks, and honestly, once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty cool.
So let's break this down. It's really just some simple math. 70 or 70 isn't a new word. It's just 60-10. Easy. Then for 80, we get 80, which literally means 4 20s. Then 90, 90, just builds on that. It's 4 20s 10. It's a little piece of history in the language, and thinking of it as simple math makes it way less scary.
And after all that creative counting, we get to a nice, simple, easy number. 100 is just cent. Shoo. From here on out, the patterns get way more straightforward again. You've officially made it through the hardest part.
So, now that we have a handle on numbers, let's start filling in our calendar. Le calendrier. This is absolutely essential for making plans, booking travel, and of course, telling people when your birthday is.
Let's just run through the days of the week. Les jours de la semaine. Try to feel the rhythm here. Lundi, mardi, mercredi, jeudi, vendredi, samedi, dimanche. And here's a great little pro tip for you. Unlike in English, the days of the week are never capitalized in French.
Okay, and now for the months. A lot of these are going to look really familiar. Janvier, février, mars, avril. As I go through them, listen for the ones that sound similar and find your birthday month. It's a great way to practice, saying something like, Mon anniversaire est en juillet. My birthday is in July.
All right, our final section. We've got numbers, we've got dates, so now we have to talk about telling time, or l'heure. Knowing how to ask quelle heure est-il, what time is it, and being able to answer is just, well, it's a crucial skill for being on time for anything.
And here's some more good news. Telling time starts with one really simple phrase. The structure is pretty much always il est followed by the hour. So if you want to say it's 3 o'clock, it's simply il est 3 heures. See? Super straightforward.
Now, this is a really key cultural point. In writing, like on train schedules or official documents, you're going to see the 24-hour clock, like 14H00. But when people are just talking, in everyday conversation, they'll usually use the 12-hour clock and just add a little context, like 2 heures de l'après-midi for 2 p.m. or 9 heures du soir for 9 p.m.
And, just like we do in English, there are special words for noon and midnight. You wouldn't really say 12 o'clock. Instead, you'll hear il est midi for noon, and for midnight, it's il est minuit.
So what about the half hour? That's another easy one. You just add et demi, which just means and a half. So 7:30 becomes il est 7h30. It's just one more simple piece to add to that core phrase we learned. Okay, so we have covered a lot of ground. Numbers, days, months, time. We've got all the individual pieces of the puzzle. But now comes the most important part, which is actually putting them all together so you can use them in a real conversation. So let's just do a quick recap. The main thing to remember is that French numbers, even the tricky ones, are all based on logic and patterns. For days and months, it's all about rhythm and repetition. And telling time always comes back to that one simple starter, il est. Seriously,
The best way to make all of this stick is to practice with numbers from your own life.
So I'll leave you with a final challenge to connect all of these dots. How would you say, I have a meeting with a friend on Saturday at 3 p.m.? Think about the day, the number, the time of day. This is exactly how you go from just learning the rules to actually speaking the language. You got this. Bravo.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle one of the absolute cornerstones for anyone starting out in French, the whole world of noun genders and articles. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to have a complete toolkit that will make you sound so much more natural and confident. So this is the question that gets everybody, right? A book is a he, a table is a she? How does that even work? It feels so random at first. But don't you worry, we are about to completely demystify this core concept of the French language once and for all.
Okay, so here's the deal. In French, every single noun, I mean everything, from a dog to an idea, has a gender. And the most important thing to get your head around is that this has nothing to do with biology or, well, with anything logical. It's just a rule of the language, a label that you have to learn with every new word.
All right, let's dive right into that core concept. Before we even get to the tools you'll be using every day, we gotta make sure this foundation is rock solid.
So, let's make this real. A book, un livre, is masculine. A table, une table, is feminine. Same goes for a dog, un chien, and a house, une maison. See that little word in front? Un or une? That's your clue. It's telling you the gender right there.
And you know, this leads me to what is, without a doubt, the single most important tip I can give you for learning French vocab. Don't just learn the word maison. No, you have to burn the phrase une maison into your brain. Treating the noun and its article like a single package deal, well, that's the absolute key to mastering this whole thing.
Okay, you've got the basic idea down, so let's move on to our first real tool in the toolkit. We're talking about the definite articles, which is really just the fancy name for the word the.
So, check it out. For a masculine noun, you use le, like in le livre, the book. For a feminine noun, you use la, as in la table, the table. And here's the best part. For any plural noun, it doesn't matter if it's masculine or feminine, you just use le. Simple as that. You know, French is all about that smooth, flowing sound. And that's where this little but super important rule comes in. If a noun starts with a vowel sound, think école for school or for man. Both le and la just kind of shrink down to an L with an apostrophe. So you get l'école, l'homme. See how much better that flows?
Awesome. You've got the covered. Let's add the next tool to our kit, the indefinite articles. This is how we say an, or some.
And hey, you're going to see a familiar pattern here. For a masculine noun, you use un, like un livre, a book. For feminine, it's une, as in une table, a table. And for plural, when you mean some, you just use de for both genders. Des livres, some books. Easy, right?
All right, on to our final tool. Now this one's a little more advanced, but trust me, it's the secret sauce that'll make you sound way more like a native speaker, especially when you're talking about food and drinks.
So these are called partitive articles. You pull them out when you're talking about just a part of something, an amount you can't really count. Think about it. You don't ask for one bread, you ask for some bread, right? Or some water. That's exactly what this is for.
So here's the breakdown. For masculine stuff you can't count, you use de, as in du pain for some bread. For feminine, it's de la, like de la confiture, some jam. And you probably guessed it, if the noun starts with a vowel, you use de le, like de l'eau for some water.
And just like that, you've collected all the tools. So let's bring it all home and put everything on one handy-dandy master chart so you can see it all together.
Okay, this is it. This is your ultimate cheat sheet. You've got your definite articles for the, your indefinite for a, and the partitives for some of something you can't count. It's all laid out, masculine, feminine, plural, and those special vowel cases. Seriously, you might want to grab a screenshot of this one.
Okay, listening to me is one thing, but actually doing it is what makes it stick. So do it, right now. Look around the room. What do you see? A pen? That's masculine, so un stylo. A lamp? Feminine, une lampe. Got a few books on the shelf? Des livres. Go on, actually say it out loud. That's how you really lock it in. So there you have it. You now have the complete toolkit for what articles to use and when to use them. You've basically cracked the code. The only question left is, are you curious about why? Why does French even have this whole system in the first place? Well, that's a whole other story for another time. Great job today, and I'll see you soon.
Bonjour à tous and welcome. So today we're going to tackle something that, well, it can feel a little scary at first, but I promise you, it's actually pretty exciting. We are going to build your very first French sentences, right from scratch.
And look, I totally get it. When you're just starting out, French grammar can look like this giant, complicated mountain, right? You've got all these conjugations, genders, rules. Yeah, it's a lot. It can feel really overwhelming.
But what if we just flipped the script on that? Instead of thinking about memorizing a bunch of boring rules, what if we thought of it like we're building something, piece by piece? Today, I'm going to hand you the blueprint, give you the tools, and I think you're going to be shocked at how fast you can start putting together your own sentences. Sound good? Let's do this.
Okay, first things first. We need the blueprint. The absolute foundation of a French sentence. And I've got to tell you, you're about to discover something, well, it's a very pleasant surprise.
Just look at this. The basic word order, it's exactly the same as in English. Subject, verb, object. That's it. So, I eat an apple becomes je mange une pomme. See? It's a perfect one-to-one match. Subject, je, verb, mange, object, une pomme. How cool is that? You already know the most fundamental rule of French sentences without even trying.
And this isn't a one-off thing. This pattern holds true for so many sentences. Tu regardes la télé. You watch TV. Subject, verb, object. Il aime le chocolat. He loves chocolate. Same thing. Once you get this simple pattern down, you can seriously start forming your own thoughts in French almost immediately.
All right, so we've got our foundation poured. Now it's time for some simple but super powerful upgrades. We're going to learn how to take any basic statement and flip it into a negative or turn it into a question.
Making a sentence negative in French is actually really straightforward. You don't have to worry about words like don't or doesn't. Nope. Instead, you just need two tiny little words. That's it.
And here they are, ne and pas. Think of them like two slices of bread that make a sandwich around your verb. So if you have je parle français, it becomes je ne parle pas français. See how the verb parle is just nestled right in between them? This little sandwich trick is your go-to for pretty much any negative sentence you want to make. Okay, what about asking questions? Well, the good news is you've got options. The absolute easiest way, and you'll hear this all the time in real conversations, is to just make your voice go up at the end of a sentence. Like, tu parles français? Easy, right? If you want something a little more structured, you can just pop esca right at the beginning. And then, if you want to sound a bit more formal, a little more proper, you can do what's called inversion. It's just swapping the verb and the subject. Parles-tu français? So there you go, 3 awesome tools for your question-asking toolkit.
Okay, every good builder needs a set of power tools, right? Well, in French, these next 4 verbs are your absolute must-have essentials. And I am not kidding when I say that if you master these 4, you will unlock the ability to make thousands of sentences.
First on our list is être, which just means to be. This is your workhorse. You'll use it to describe who you are, what you are, how you're feeling, everything. Like, je suis étudiant. I am a student. Trust me, this verb is absolutely everywhere in French. Next up, we've got avoir, meaning to have. You're going to use this for everything you own, obviously, but also in a ton of common phrases. Super simple example, j'ai un livre. I have a book. And hey, here's a little pro tip for you. See how j'ai turns into j apostrophe? That's just because it's followed by a vowel. It helps everything sound smoother when you say it out loud. Pretty cool, huh? Power tool number 3 is aller, which means to go. And oh man, this one is so useful. It's not just for saying where you're physically going, like je vais à Paris. It's also your secret weapon for talking about the near future. It's how you say, I am going to do something. So yeah, this one is super, super important to know. And last but not least, we've got faire. It means to do or to make, and it is the Swiss Army knife of French verbs. Seriously, you'll use it for all kinds of actions and activities. A classic example is je fais du sport, I do sports, or I play sports. So here's the bottom line. Être, avoir, aller, and faire. These 4 are the absolute bedrock of the language. And you want to know a little secret? Those first 2, être and avoir, they're also what we call helping verbs.
That means you're going to need them later on to build past tenses. So the time you spend mastering them now, it is going to pay off big time, I promise. Okay, you've got the blueprint, you've got your modification techniques, you've got your power tools all charged up. Now for the fun part. It's time to put it all together and actually start building.
So, let's do a quick check of our building kit. We've got our subject-verb-object structure. We've got our ne pas sandwich for making things negative. We've got our 3 easy ways to ask a question. And we've got our 4 superstar verbs. You ready to go? Okay, let's build our first one together. Think about the pieces. The subject is we, the verb is to go, and the destination is to school. How are you going to put those pieces together? Go on, take a second to think about it.
Got it? And there you go. Nous allons à l'école. You see what you did there? You grabbed the subject, nous. You found the right version of our verb aller, which is allons, and you tacked on the destination. Absolutely perfect.
Okay, you're on a roll. Let's try a question this time. And remember, you've got 3 different ways you could do this. So the subject is you, the verb is to have, and the object is a dog. How would you ask that? Give it a shot.
Excellent. Est-ce que tu as un chien? That's using that more formal inversion method we talked about. Now, you could have also said tu as un chat, just with your voice going up, or est-ce que tu as un chien? All 3 are totally correct, and you'll definitely hear all of them out in the wild.
And just like that, you did it. You took all the different parts, the subject, the verb, the basic structure, and you actually built real, complete, correct French sentences. See? It wasn't so scary after all, was it? What you have right now is the fundamental blueprint for communicating in French. Seriously. Now, every new word you learn, every new verb you master, it's just another piece of material you can add to your collection. Your foundation is solid. So the only real question is, what are you going to build next?
Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever wanted to just describe the world around you in French? Well, today, we're basically handing you the toolbox to do just that. We're going to go through the essential building blocks, the words you need to talk about your family, your passions, and everything in between. So let's get started building your French world, one word at a time. So where do we even begin? You know, learning a language isn't just about memorizing boring lists of words. It's about actually constructing a new world for yourself, piece by piece. It's an active, creative thing. So let's grab our first set of tools and get to work. You know, when you build anything, you've got to start with a solid foundation. And in language, that foundation is usually the people who are closest to us. So our very first step is learning how to talk about family. All right, let's look at these core words. For mother, we have la mère. For father, it's le père. See that little accent on the E? That's what gives it that eh sound. Then we've got brother, le frère, and sister, la sœur. Put them together and you get les parents. And for the grandparents, it's les grands-parents. Pretty straightforward, right? And here's how you can use that right away. J'ai un frère et une sœur. I have a brother and a sister. See? Just like that, you're sharing a real fact about yourself in French. It's that easy to get the ball rolling. Now, wait a second. Did you notice that we said le père, but la mère? This is a really big deal in French. Every single noun has a gender. It's either masculine, so we use le, or it's feminine, and we use la. Don't stress about memorizing them all right now, but just start noticing the pattern. It's one of those little secrets to making your French sound much more natural. Okay, so we've laid the foundation with people. Now for the fun part. Let's add some life, some detail. It's time to paint our world with a little bit of color. Here's your basic color palette. Let's run through them. We've got rouge, which is red, bleu, blue, vert, green, jaune, yellow, noir, black, blanc, white, rose for pink, and marron for brown. These are your absolute go-to words for describing pretty much anything you can see. Hey, remember our little chat about masculine and feminine nouns? Well, guess what? It's back. In French, adjectives, like colors, have to match the gender of the noun they're describing. So, a blue pen, un stylo bleu, that's masculine. But a blue car, une voiture bleue, is feminine. Did you see that? We just add an E to the end. The same thing happens with vert, which becomes verte, and noir becomes noir. It's a small rule, but it makes a huge difference. Let's see this in a complete sentence to really make it click. J'aime les fleurs bleues. I like blue flowers. Okay, so because the word for flowers, fleur, is feminine, the adjective bleu gets an E. And because we're talking about more than one flower, it also gets an S for plural. So it becomes bleu. Nailing this little detail is what's going to make you sound so much more authentic. All right, we have sketched out the people and the objects in our world, but now it's time to put ourselves right in the middle of the picture. How do we talk about who we are? A fantastic way to start any conversation is to talk about where you're from. And look who's back, our old friend, gender. A man from France is français, but a woman is française. A man from Canada is canadien, while a woman is canadienne. Are you starting to see that pattern emerge? And here it is in action. It's super simple. Il est canadien. Because we're talking about he, or il, we use the masculine form of the adjective. That's it. Okay, so just as important as where you're from is what you do. Are you maybe un étudiant or une étudiante? Or maybe an ingénieur or une ingénieure? These are the words that really help define your role in the world. Whoa, okay. See what's happening here? We're starting to combine our building blocks. Mon père est ingénieur. You're taking words from the family section and mixing them with the profession section to build a much more interesting sentence. This is how you really start to speak a language. Now, for what might be the most important part, introducing yourself. The absolute key phrase is je suis, which just means I am. Then you pop your profession right on the end. Je suis étudiant. Je suis médecin. Seriously, commit this phrase to memory. You will use it all the time. Okay, we're almost there. Let's add the final touches to our world. We're going to fill it with the things that make life fun, your hobbies, and the everyday stuff that's all around you. So what are you passionate about? Is it le sport, maybe la lecture, which is reading, or how about le cinéma and la musique? These words are how you start sharing your personality with people. And here is a fantastic template for sharing that passion. My favorite hobby is la lecture. My favorite hobby is reading. And the best part is, you can just swap out la lecture for any of your own interests. Super easy. And finally, let's just populate our world with the objects we use every single day. The book, le livre, the pen, le stylo, the computer, l'ordinateur. These are the words for the things that are probably sitting right in front of you as we speak. And here's how you might use that in a real, totally practical situation. I mean, how many times have you asked this question? Où est mon stylo? Where is my pen? So there we have it. We've gathered all the pieces. You now have the vocabulary to build a pretty good description of your world. The only thing left to do now is, well, to actually do it. I mean, just take a second and think about it. What you have right now are those core foundational building blocks. You can talk about your family, your identity, what you do every day. Seriously, that's excellent work. You've laid some amazing groundwork. Okay, so here's a little challenge for you. I want you to take these building blocks and actually create something. Start simple. Try to write just one single sentence for each of these categories. Describe your family, say what your profession is, mention a hobby, and then just look around the room you're in and name one object in French. You can do it. You've got the tools. You've got the blueprint. The only question left is, what are you going to build first? What is the very first thing you want to describe using your new French vocabulary? Go on, give it a shot.